Thank you for looking into this video. Today we're going to talk about the topic of locking out your joints in strength training. So I often do hear the saying, don't lock out your joints, it will hurt your joints. Or even, don't lock out your joints, it is better to keep the joint a little bit bent for muscle growth. Today, we're going to find out if this is true and if you are hurting or helping your progress with locking or not locking out your joints. So let's talk about hypertrophy first. Does locking out your joints hurt your progress when you're trying to build muscle? First, you have to differ between the two types of hypertrophy. You have this one and this one. On the first one, you're basically growing your contractile elements of your muscles. So the elements of your muscle which actually produce the force for the movement itself. On the second one, you're more growing the energy substrates like glycogen and the energy producing elements of your muscle. So you could say with this one, you're growing your engine, and with this one, you're growing your tank. If you now know the difference between those two types of hypertrophy, we can dig deeper into the question if locking out your joints will hurt your progress on building muscle. Okay, now that you have heard of the two types of hypertrophy, the myofibrillar and the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, we're talking about the difference between them. So the first one, the myofibrillar hypertrophy, means you're growing the contractile elements of your muscles. So the question, if you lock out your joint on a biceps curl, will your biceps muscle have to contract harder to move the weight up, as if you keep the elbow a little bit bent? Yes, if you lock out your joint, your muscle will have to create more tension because it's loosening tension at the bottom position, so your muscle will be loose, and it will have to create more tension on the way up, so it has to create more force. And this is a trigger for your muscle to build more of the contractile elements of your muscle. So locking out your joints will help to grow, will help with hypertrophy of myofibrillar elements on the muscle. But if you keep your joint a little bit bent, you will keep tension on the muscle. Tension on the muscle means that while the muscle is contracted, your blood vessels will be shorter, will be tighter. So it's not as much blood that is flowing through the muscle while you keep your muscle under tension, which means that it's not as much oxygen that it's getting into the muscle while you keep the tension here as if you lock out your joint. So if you don't get enough, or let's say more oxygen into the muscle, this is a trigger for your muscle to keep more glycogen in the muscle itself. So you are growing your tank. So you do have a difference in the types of hypertrophy that will benefit if you lock out your joint or not. So if you lock out your joint, you will lose tension on the muscle, the blood vessels will open up, you get more oxygen that flows into your muscle, and due to the fact that you have less tension, your muscle will have to create more tension on the way up. So with this type, you will have more myofibrillar hypertrophy. But if you keep the elbow a little bit bent, you keep the tension on the biceps muscle, which means the blood vessels will be tighter, you will have less oxygen flowing into the muscle, which means your muscle will have the trigger to put more glycogen into the muscle itself, which also helps to grow the muscle, but in a different way. Please keep in mind that none of those two types of hypertrophy are done single-handedly. So if you have the myofibrillar hypertrophy, of course your body will also store more glycogen. And if you have the sarcoplasmic hypertrophy, of course, your muscle will also grow the contractile elements. It's just percentage-wise different. So on one, you do have a bigger part of the contractile elements that are growing, and on the other, you do have a bigger part of the tank which is growing. So now that you understand the difference in between those two types of hypertrophy, and that locking out your elbow or not locking out is not exclusively bad for hypertrophy, you only have to differ in which type of hypertrophy you want to invest and which type of hypertrophy benefits your specific goal the most. Now we're talking about the question if locking out your joints will hurt your joint health. Again, we're taking the biceps curl as an example. So if you completely lock out your elbow on the biceps curl, of course your muscle will lose tension. Where will the tension be transferred then over the joint? On the passive structures like your ligaments. So if you put tension on your ligaments, is this exclusively bad? No, they're built for it. And also the fact that you put tension on your ligaments is a trigger for your ligaments to grow stronger. It works basically the same as your muscle. You put tension on it, your body realizes, okay, the structure has to do a lot of work, so we better make it a little bit stronger. The thing is just that ligaments and tendons take 3 times longer to adapt to a stimulus than your muscles. So your muscle will grow stronger way faster than your ligaments. And that is the problem. If you grow your muscles very fast, your ligaments won't be strong enough, maybe not be strong enough to support it. So that's why you should, when you start strength training, directly start with locking out your joint completely, and definitely with no ego lifting. That's where the problems come into play. If you did strength training for 3, 6, 12 months, for example, and you gain some strength, and then you hop onto a leg press, you put on 300 kilograms, you do quarter reps, and you lock out at the top, of course, your knees will be bent backwards, and you will have all your ligaments in your knees torn. But if you do it correctly, and you keep a weight that your joints will be able to actually stabilize, your tendons, your ligaments will transfer the tension, they will grow stronger, they will need more time than the muscles, but they will definitely grow stronger. So locking out your joints does not specifically hurt your joints when it comes to strength training. It is only the fact that if you do ego lifting and you didn't prepare your ligaments with locking out your joints from the beginning or for a certain period of time, that you will get injured. So please do lock out your joints on strength training if you want to have strong ligaments and tendons. Do it with a safe weight, a weight which you can do with proper form, no ego lifting, no swinging, no jerking the weight around, and then you will be safe, you will grow stronger ligaments, stronger tendons, and your joints will definitely benefit from that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave me a comment, to send me a personal message. I will be very happy to answer them. See you in the next video.